Having you around just makes the family look bad. That's what my dad said when I asked if we were inviting the usual crowd for Mom's birthday this year. That was all it took. Apparently, my presence might embarrass them, especially with Jenna's boyfriend in town. I did not argue. I just opened my bank app, and started canceling every recurring payment I had set up in their name. 3 years of bills, gone with a few clicks. 2 weeks later, they started to realize how much I had been doing behind the scenes, but by then, I had moved on. Their apologies came too late. From that point on, I decided I was done living for people who only saw my worth once I stopped giving. My name's Frank. I'm 32. My mornings are always the same. I brew a strong cup of coffee, check the weather, and walk to work. My office is less than 15 minutes from my front porch. I helped start a tech company that focuses on renewable energy. It is a niche area, not everyone gets it. My family definitely does not. They still picture me in a workshop somewhere, fixing gadgets and twisting bolts. Sometimes, when someone asks about my parents or my sister, Jenna, I just smile and say, "We haven't spoken in a while." That is all I say. Because I am tired of going over the same old wounds. I used to think blood was everything. That no matter what, family stood by you. But that idea got shattered 3 years ago, on my mom's birthday. 1 month before the big day, I booked my flight and arranged for time off work. The plan was simple: show up a little early, lend a hand, enjoy the celebration, just like every other year. I picked up the phone and called home. My dad answered. "I'm flying in a couple days before the party," I told him, casual as always. "Let me know if you want me to bring anything or help with the setup." There was a beat of silence. When he finally spoke, his tone had shifted. It was cautious, like he was trying not to say the wrong thing. "Frank, it might be better if you sat this one out." At first, I thought he was just being considerate, maybe worried I was too busy. "No worries, Dad," I said, still holding my mug of coffee. "I've got it all worked out." Then came a longer pause. When he spoke again, he was firmer, like the decision had already been made. "Jenna's boyfriend is coming this year. He's doing pretty well for himself. Works in management, knows how to carry himself. Your situation, it's a little harder to explain. Maybe it's best if you don't come this time." My whole body went hot. I could feel my heart pounding. I squeezed my mug so hard I thought it might break. "What did you just say?" My voice cracked. I could not keep it steady anymore. He did not backtrack. "You'd just be an embarrassment to all of us. And if you still decide to show up, don't call me your father." And then, he hung up. I set my phone down, my hand damp with sweat. I was standing in the stillness, trying to process what had just happened. His words kept circling my brain like a broken record. "You'd embarrass the whole family. If you come, don't call me your father." I sat there wondering if I had misunderstood. But no, the tone, the delivery, the choice of words, they were deliberate. Clear as day. I clenched my jaw, my throat tight like something was stuck. And then all the memories started flooding back. I had been paying their bills, power, water, internet, every single month. Not once had anyone acknowledged it. And now I was their disgrace. I picked my phone back up, hands still a little shaky, and pulled up my banking history. I needed to see just how much I had poured into that household. Line after line of transactions. Every month, nearly $500, right on schedule. When I got to the bottom, the number was just sitting there. $11,840. I stared at it, not surprised. More than $10,000. And all I got in return was rejection. Looking over that long list of payments, a quiet thought crept in, a question nobody in my family had ever asked, not once in 3 decades. Has Jenna ever lifted a finger for them the way I have? If I'm supposedly the black mark on this family, then I had to ask, compared to what? Has Jenna ever sacrificed anything? Ever checked in to see if they were okay? Or did she just show up, flash a smile, and leave everyone impressed with her polished look and successful boyfriend? I wasn't keeping score. I just needed to understand something that had never made sense before. In this family, fairness was never part of the rules. Since I was a kid, I had always felt like an extra. In every family photo, I was the one half hidden behind someone else or standing off to the side. Never fully in the frame. No one told me to move, I just did. Somehow, I always made space for everyone else. Jenna was always the center of everything. Her birthdays, her report cards, her heartbreaks, there was always a reason to give her all the attention. When it came to me, I honestly can't remember the last time someone even asked how I was holding up. She's 3 years older, but the distance between us was never just age. She was the one with the bright future. The one they showed off whenever relatives stopped by. If I got mentioned at all, it was something like, "Frank? Oh, yeah, he's doing fine. Some kind of tech job, I think." I used to believe that if I kept my head down, stayed out of trouble, and handled things without complaining, maybe one day they'd finally see me. But the truth is, when you spend your whole life invisible, no one notices when you're gone. It all started when my mom had called out of the blue. She was frustrated about rising bills, how tight things had gotten, and how their retirement income just wasn't stretching far enough. Then, in a softer voice, she asked if I could pitch in. I said yes. At the time, I thought I was helping out for maybe a few months. Just until things settled. But nothing changed. No one brought up a timeline. No one mentioned an end date. There was never a backup plan. Once or twice I asked, "Is Jenna helping out too, Mom?" She always dodged it. Sometimes she'd say, "Just this month, honey. Your sister will take over next time." Other times, "She's handling your dad's health stuff." That's not easy either. She repeated those lines so many times, I could quote them. And each time, I just nodded and let it slide. But deep down, I knew none of it was true. Still, I kept sending the money, month after month, like clockwork. I thought it was the right thing to do. I kept hoping that if I just stayed steady, just did the responsible thing, they'd finally see me. But after everything, when they look at me now, all they see is shame. I sat on the couch with my phone in hand. The anger was gone. The hurt had faded. What remained, deep and unmistakable, was a single, quiet truth: this was enough. I opened my banking app and found the list of monthly payments, the ones set up to automatically pay my parents' bills. Electricity. Water. Internet. One by one, I tapped in and cancelled each one. No second guessing. Not to get even. Just to take back the only thing I still had, a little bit of dignity. 2 weeks later, my mom sent a message. Her tone hadn't changed. Still gentle. No mention of what had happened. No acknowledgement. Just. "I just got a notice the internet bill is due. Can you cover it?" I stared at the message for a second, then set my phone down without replying. That message told me everything. No, "Are you okay?" No, "Can we talk?" Just, "Hey, pay the bill." So I stayed quiet. And in that silence, I finally felt heard. 3 weeks passed before my dad tried calling. I let it ring. A few minutes later, he left a voicemail. His tone was clipped, irritated, just like always. The power company called. The bill wasn't paid. What's going on? Still no mention of what he said to me. Still no hint of regret. Just confusion over a missed payment. I stayed silent. Through to the day of my mother's birthday, 3 weeks after he told me not to come home. The party carried on, just like every other year. Her favorite, roast beef on the table, that same lemon curd cake in the center, and the usual relatives gathered around, smiling for pictures. Everything was exactly where it always was. Everything, except me. That afternoon, at exactly 5 o'clock, I was sitting in my living room with a cup of coffee that had long since gone cold. My phone buzzed. It was my mom calling. I looked at the screen. Watched it ring. Then set it down without answering. A few minutes later, my dad called. Then Jenna. I ignored every one of them. I leaned back in my chair, my eyes resting on the window. Outside, the sky was that heavy gray, not stormy, but chilled and still. A kind of quiet that just seeps in. That kind of quiet where it feels like winter has slipped in without knocking. That was the feeling settling around me. A cold that did not come from the air, but from everything else. About 5 minutes later, the text started. First, it was Mom. Frank, the power's out. Please, pay the bill. I stared at her message without flinching. A slow, spreading emptiness in my chest. Then came my dad. There's no water. Internet's down. Fix it now. Several weeks ago to the day, I had shut off every auto payment right after my father told me I should not call him Dad if I planned on showing up. Now here they were, right in the middle of the birthday party they told me not to attend, and one by one, the essentials started failing. No power. No water. No connection. All of it fading just when they needed it most. In that moment, it became perfectly clear, they were not reaching out because they missed me. They were reaching out because there was no one else left to take care of things. By 6:30, the buzzing picked up again. But now it wasn't my parents or my sister. It was the extended family, the ones who only show up during the holidays but still act like they get a say. The messages came fast, layered in judgment. You're being disrespectful. You humiliated your mother in front of everyone. Your sister was right, people like you ruin good moments. I scrolled through every one. Not a single response. Not because silence meant guilt, but because I had long since given up explaining myself to people who only cared about appearances. Just as I was about to set my phone down, the screen lit up again. Aunt Margaret. A video call, using an old app that only the two of us still used. We had always been the only ones who looked each other in the eyes when it really mattered. I paused, then answered on the second ring. Her face appeared first, dimly lit by that warm, yellow kitchen light I used to know so well. I remembered every inch of that kitchen. Every hairline crack in the wall. Every drawer that stuck when you pulled it too far. But something about it felt unfamiliar now. Muted. Distant. Behind her, I could hear the sound of forks clinking, muffled conversation, forced laughter. She looked at me, her eyes soft with concern. You're not going to pay it, are you? She asked gently, not accusing, just trying to understand. I looked into her face, and when I spoke, the words came slow, heavy, like I was pulling them up from somewhere buried deep. Dad told me not to come. I swallowed. He said if I insisted on showing up, should never call him my father again. She looked away, as if searching the room for something she could not find. And then, chaos. Behind her, voices broke through. My mother, sharp and clear now. Tell him I'm ashamed of him. On her birthday of all days, how could he do this? Then my father, louder. It's just a few bills. What kind of man gets this bitter over money? Footsteps came closer to the screen. Jenna appeared behind Aunt Margaret, arms folded tight, jaw clenched. He answered. After what he's done? Mom's been crying all day. Does he even care? He has no shame. I sat in silence. And then, someone else stepped into view. A young man, neat haircut, dressed in a dark suit. He glanced at me, uncertain, and then smiled awkwardly. "Hey, boss," he said. His voice cracked just a little, like he was not sure those words fit the moment. I froze. My grip tightened around the phone. Of all the things I expected to happen, that was not one of them. His face. The way he spoke. It clicked right away. He was one of the newer guys, a recent transfer from our northern office. We'd traded a few emails, and he'd submitted a couple of reports. That was it. I had no clue he was that boyfriend, the one everyone had been trying so hard to impress. Aunt Margaret looked back over her shoulder, and the entire kitchen suddenly tensed. The buzz of conversation stilled, like everyone was trying to process what they had just heard. A hush fell over the room as quiet murmurs began to stir, questions passed in lowered voices, puzzled glances exchanged. Some were trying to make sense of what they had just heard, realizing who I was in relation to him. The confusion rippled through the space, layered and uncertain. I stayed still, watching it all unfold. Then the young man stood a little taller, turned toward the others, and said loud enough for the room to hear. "In case it wasn't clear, I work at Viridian Core. Mr. Frank is one of the company's co-founders." The room fell quiet. The stunned kind. The kind that forces people to reconsider everything they just said. Still, I stayed silent. I gave a small, measured nod. Just enough to confirm. He looked back at me, wide-eyed. I met his gaze and said, steady and calm, "Hope your introduction's going well." Then I ended the call. That night, I slept straight through, no restless turning, no echoes of past fights looping in my mind. The bitterness was gone. Because now, at last, they saw me for who I truly was. The next morning, before daylight had fully slipped in through the thin curtains, I rolled over, grabbed my phone, and checked my email like I always do. A few reminders, updates from accounting, and then one sender stood out, David Shaw. The name was unfamiliar, at least until I opened the message. The first line landed hard. "I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were Jenna's brother. I've always respected you at the company." I raised an eyebrow, shifted onto my back, and kept reading. He explained how surprised he was to learn that Jenna and I were related. And without dodging or dressing it up, he got to the point. "I didn't expect her to be that way. I'm ending things. And thank you for not calling me out in front of everyone." I rested the phone on my chest and let my eyes close for a minute. Eventually, I opened the reply window and typed out a short, direct response. "David, that's your decision. I don't expect anyone to act a certain way just to stay on my good side. Whatever you do, make sure it's the right choice for you. For what it's worth, I keep work and family separate." I sent it. No second thoughts. No lingering feelings. It was done. Some things, once they're said plainly, don't need to be said again. Close to 11, I was wrapping up a meeting and gathering my notes when I felt my phone vibrate in my pocket. I checked the screen, it was Jenna. I watched it ring, then quietly declined. Just tired of hearing sorry only after everything had already fallen apart. 5 minutes later, a message popped up. "I'm sorry. I didn't expect David to react like that. You're his boss, if you say something, I know he'll listen. Please talk to him. Ask him to come back." I walked over to the window at the end of the hallway and leaned into the glass, rereading her words. Then I replied, steady and to the point. "He didn't leave because of me. He left because of how you treat people, how quick you are to look down on what you do not understand, and how you believe a soft tone can talk anyone into anything." I hit send, slid the phone into my pocket, and walked back to my desk. Not a minute passed before she messaged again. "I know I messed up this time. I mean it, I'll change. Please, just believe me. This one time." I read the words and sat still with them for a moment. But there was no shift inside me. Sometimes, the gap between two people has nothing to do with the words they say, it's about when those words finally show up. I deleted the message. Then turned back to the parts of my life that were still real. On a Wednesday afternoon, I stepped through the door from the garage and froze in place. My parents were standing on my front porch, each holding a small suitcase, both looking worn out from a long trip. I did not ask why they were there. If they had flown all the way here, it wasn't just to catch up. I opened the door and let them in. I was not going to have this talk outside, with the wind picking up across the porch. We sat in the living room. A pot of tea was already on the table, steam curling from the cups. My dad spoke first. His voice was more level than usual. He apologized. My mom added her piece, said they had spent time thinking things through. Maybe things had gone too far. Maybe they should not have let it get to this point. I listened. Said nothing. I needed to know if this apology was where something ended, or where something new began. Then my dad's tone shifted. We're family, Frank. Families support each other. We raised you. Paid for your schooling. A lot of what you have now, we helped make possible. I looked at him, face steady, spine straightening just a little. Then Mom added softly. We're only asking for a bit of help, maybe a monthly contribution of $2,000. It's really not a big ask, not for someone in your position. And just like that, their apology came with a price tag. Because to them, my success was something I owed back. They watched me, waiting. Almost like they expected me to agree. I was sure they thought I would. So I leaned back in my chair and answered, calm and clear. What about Jenna? How much will she be contributing? The air shifted. The room held still. Dad glanced over at Mom. She answered slowly. Her job situation is still unstable. And the breakup, it hit her hard. I nodded. Of course. The same story, dressed in gentle excuses. I looked them both in the eye and said, if Jenna's willing to contribute, I'll do the same. But I'm not going a cent beyond that. They did not respond. Just stared, trying to figure out whether I was bluffing. Then I added. Or, if you want me to handle it all, I'll need something in writing. A legal agreement stating that once you're gone, the house belongs to me. And then I stopped talking. No pressure. Just the offer, sitting there in the space between us. Waiting to see what they would say. For the first time, I was the one setting the terms, something they had always assumed was their right to decide for me. Then, without warning, my father stood up fast, the chair legs scraping loudly against the floor. He slammed his palm against the table, hard enough to rattle the teacup and send it spilling over the edge, tea dripping down onto the floor. His voice exploded through the room. You're giving conditions to your own parents? We fed you, clothed you, raised you, and now you want to nickel and dime us like strangers? What kind of son does that? His chest was heaving, voice raw with fury. Honestly, I wouldn't have been surprised if the neighbors heard every word. But I didn't flinch. When he ran out of breath, I stood. Slowly. I spoke softly, but the words cut clear through all the noise. I think it's time for you both to leave. That was it. Just a boundary from someone who had finally hit the edge of what quiet respect could carry. Nobody said another word. The only sounds were the wheels of their suitcases scraping across the hardwood floor, and the soft click of the door as it closed behind them. It's been 3 years since that day. Since the last time I saw them, right here in my own home. I never blocked their numbers. Never changed my email. I just stopped chasing a connection that had always been one-sided. I waited to see if they'd still see me as family when I wasn't the one paying, fixing, solving. When I wasn't the one showing up out of duty. Not a single call. Not one message asking how I was doing. No birthday wishes. No, are you okay? Not even a quick note on holidays. I used to hold on to this hope that maybe they'd change. But eventually, you learn, not everyone sees a need to change. Especially those who've never thought they were wrong in the first place. Sometimes, closure it's just you choosing not to reopen a door that only ever led to pain. Maybe that's what growing up really is, understanding that love without respect isn't love at all. So if you're someone out there still trying to earn space in a room that won't make room for you, let this be your sign. You don't have to keep proving your worth to people who only notice you when you're gone. Build your life. And if it feels like starting over, good. That means you're finally starting with you.